This is TWiT.
The only one that really got my attention was
I knew you were going to pick this one.
The Adobe and Figma deal.
Yeah.
According to the Wall Street Journal, Adobe's $20 billion purchase of Figma would harm innovation, UK regulators provisionally fined. I don't get it. I get that we want competition in any of these spaces, be it software or cars or whatever. I get that. But at the same time, if a merger can bring a better product to the masses, I don't see anything wrong with that. Now, Mr. Jarvis, I know you have some background as far as with dealing with competition and antitrust and so forth, but where does this fall here for you, in your opinion?
Yeah, I didn't know, but I was going to ask you, Ant.
I think it's fine. I think it's totally fine that they would team up. Figma has resources, but they don't have Adobe resources.
Well, that was the question that I had when I was reading through this, because I'm very familiar with Adobe. I should say I've interacted with Adobe. Mm-hmm. I have not used Figma. Mm-hmm. But the way this article is written and the way that they're kind of spelling out, Margot Daly, who's the chair of the independent group that conducted the investigation, basically said Adobe and Figma are two of the world's leading providers of software for app and web designers. Our investigation so far has found that they are close competitors. This has the potential to impact the UK's digital design industry by reducing, choice innovation, development of new competitive products. And I guess when I read that, I was like, wow, I guess I didn't realize that Figma was that major of a player.
They're pretty good. But then at the same time, Adobe has been trying to do a lot of the things that Figma does from a design standpoint and user experience standpoint, and they were getting there, but they wasn't Figma, and Adobe knew that and said, you know what, if you can't beat them, join them. Mm-hmm. Let's make an offer, which is what most companies do anyway.
Yeah. I mean,
and Figma agreed to it. Figma was like, yeah, sure.
I mean, yeah, it's like the biggest sale of a private company, I think, ever at the time.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Figma is huge among graphic designers. Yeah. It is like the product as far as kind of interactive or collaborative website design and interface design. I think Adobe was a bit afraid.
Yeah. Adobe was getting there.
Figma was eating its lunch.
Yeah, Adobe was getting there, but they wasn't there yet. And again, I think it's one of those lines of, well, if we can't beat them, let's buy them.
Well, but I think you've just made the antitrust argument.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it precisely.
Yeah. But at the same time, Figma's like, sure.
Well, yeah.
Our routing number is here.
Of course.
Of course. So I don't know.
What does that do to the design industry, as far as the...
Well, but then also, let's say this deal does go through. Who's to say that there's still not a bit of the Figma DNA involved in what Adobe brings forth in 2025 or so? Because again, Adobe has been trying to I shouldn't say mimic what Figma has been doing and get some of those customers. Mm-hmm. But who's to say that they want they purchase this company and still use a lot of their developers that are there in the house and use a lot of their design aesthetic to help make the product even better for everybody, not just people that were formerly Adobe and not just people that were formerly Figma. It's for everybody.
Well, so that happens. There is still a Figma to compete against them with that feature set versus there not being that if Adobe ends up buying Figma. And I think that's at the core of it.
And I'm sure that there's other open source options out there too, but of course they don't necessarily compete as well. And yes, I know a lot of our TWiT listeners are open source advocates, but I gotta tell you, GIMP, not very good, and Inkwell, not quite as good as Illustrator. It is what it is.
And low user count by comparison?
Definitely.
So then I think even more you're making the case, you're making it make more sense.
Prosecutor.
Adobe did it right, though. You know what I'm saying? Adobe did it right.
Adobe did it right if Adobe wants to, swallow up the competitor and
I don't know.
Make more money as a result. But I think what they're arguing is, but what are we left with if we let you do that?
Yeah.
We're left with one dominant player and a couple of at least, what you're saying.
I think you're going to be called as an expert witness, Ant.
There we go.
Yeah, again, like I said, I don't
Adobe's
see anything
on the phone
wrong
right now.
I don't see anything wrong with the deal, but that's just me. I just see this being an end game of a better product out there that's available. Now, if Adobe decides to turn into jackasses and charge a ridiculous amount for it, that's a problem.
It's midweek, and you really want to know even more about the world of technology.
So you should check out Tech News Weekly, the show where we talk to and about the people making and breaking the tech news.
It's the biggest news. We talk with the people writing the stories that you're probably reading. We also talk between ourselves about the stories that are getting us even more excited about tech news this week.
So if you're excited, well, then join us. Head to twit.tv/TNW to subscribe.